seems a bit of a shame to ever fade out that song, but I'm going to have to because it is, wow, it's one I've been looking forward to since the day I touched down. Please make him feel very welcome, Mr. Russ Elevado.
Thank you. Good to be here.
How you doing, Russ?
Pretty good. Just got in from San Francisco, so kind of getting used to this little time change, but great vibes over here. Good to be here.
Thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And so for those of us in the room that might not be familiar with what you do for a living, could you describe what that is as best you can?
What I do? Basically, just have fun every day when I go to work. It's not really work for me. I feel like I'm pretty lucky. I feel like people pay me to like just have fun and just kind of experiment and, you know. So I feel pretty lucky. I don't really consider it work or anything. But basically, I'm a engineer, producer, you know, recording engineer. Yeah.
And generally speaking, what part of the recording process is that? What does that involve?
Basically, I'm like the guy that's like setting up the microphones, getting levels and stuff. I still do stuff to tape, so I make sure I get good levels to go into tape and stuff, and basically record the band, you know. Hopefully it's a live band and it's not just drum machines and stuff, which is kind of dying, but, you know, that's mainly what I do is like record live musicians, you know.
So do you want to give us an example, or at least tell us some of the artists that you work with over the course of your career?
Okay. Well, there's Alicia Keys, D'Angelo, The Roots, Common, Saul Williams. There's a few people I'm forgetting, but Erykah, Badu, you know, people like that. Roy Hargrove for the jazz fans. Yeah.
And how do you first come into contact with these people? Is it word of mouth? I mean,
yeah, it's all been word of mouth through my whole career, basically. I've never really like solicited any work or anything, which is pretty cool because people that they come and seek me out, it means they know me for a certain thing, and it's not like I'm like trying to reach out and say, hey, I want to work with you, I want to work with you. It's actually people that come and find me because they know me for a certain sound or whatever. So it's kind of like the best way to work, you know.
and if you had to describe that as the texture of that sound as best you could that you're looking for, and the texture of the sound that they seek from you, how would you describe that?
Probably a vintage, because all of my roots in music has been like 60s music, 70s, some 80s stuff like Prince and Michael Jackson and stuff. But mainly my main roots is like, you know, the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, Curtis Mayfield, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, stuff like that. Classic soul music, classic rock stuff, you know.
And in terms of getting into doing what you do now, I mean, how did you first start out? Was it the classic making coffee and tea in a major recording studio? Or
started at the bottom, for sure. Went to school in New York in the Village, a place called Institute of Audio Research. And basically it's like just kind of like a technical school, you know, like a year program. But halfway through the school I started interning at a place called Shakedown Studios, which was owned by a producer called Arthur Baker. And so, yeah, got the coffee, swept the floors, cleaned the bathrooms, you know. Then this is before I even graduated from school. I was like 19 when I started. So then just kind of started assisting at different studios. This is all in New York. And then just kind of made my way up the ranks, you know. Got lucky, a little bit of luck involved, being at the right place at the right time, you know.
So basically there's pretty much no substitute for experience when it comes to that stuff?
No, not at all. Not at all. I would think my biggest break, I mixed a song for two songs on Roberta Flack's last album. And at that point in my career, I was doing the whole R&B circuit, and making good money, pretty successful, but wasn't completely happy with the music, you know. Up until Roberta Flack, yeah, I was working a lot, but not like creatively speaking, wasn't really wasn't getting to the next step, you know. So just after I did Roberta Flack, I met D'Angelo, and that was it. He like kind of saved my career, you know, because I was really just kind of disillusioned and just was like ready to like stop actually, because wasn't really having any fun. I was making money, but like on a creative level, it was just not working, you know. And then somebody played me. His manager played me the demos, D'Angelo's demos, and I was like, wow, I have to work with this guy.
This is before Brown Sugar, right?
This is this is before Brown Sugar. Yeah. So
I mean, we know that you're involved completely in the recording of Voodoo, D'Angelo, which is an amazing piece of work, but you also have some production and engineering credits on the first album as well, right?
yeah, I did. I took over where Bob Power left off. They had kind of like creative kind of disagreements, and then they were looking for another person, and I was actually working on Angie Stone's album when she was with this group called Vertical Hold, and same management. So that's when the manager was like, "Hey, maybe you should work with D'Angelo," and he played me the songs, and I was like, "Yes, of course I'll work with this guy." So I ended up mixing like 3 songs on the album. Yeah.
And obviously that relationship just blossomed because, you know, the results on Voodoo is clearly a very special working relationship.
Yes, absolutely. We totally clicked from the very beginning. We actually were talking about Voodoo before we even finished Brown Sugar, because when I came into it, I was like, I had heard the song kind of should be mixed like in a different way, more raw, more kind of more edgy, you know. But we couldn't do it because 7 songs were already mixed, and we kind of had to match the album. So, but he said, "Hey, man, I'm open to your ideas, and like, you know, tell me more." And like, we both started playing each other music, and you know, our influences. And I'm like, "Yeah, you know, we should make your next album sound like this album, or you know, look at Stevie's album. Like, you know, the drums sound so raw and everything." And he was like, "Yeah, we got to do it." So we were talking about the Voodoo album from the beginning. Yeah.
Well, I guess we should just get straight in and talk about Voodoo for a while because, I mean, I'm happy to go on record and say, you know, that from my personal perspective, if you forced me to pick, you know, my top 10 records of all time, I don't know what the other 9 would be, but that would definitely be in there, you know. And that has a lot to do with, obviously the content is phenomenal, but it has a lot to do with the texture of the sound as well. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stories surrounding that album of how indulgent the recording process was and how long you guys were in the studio for, and the lead up to actually recording the record. I mean, if you had a goal sonically for that album, what was it? And was it a shared goal that you had with him?
Let's see. Well, it's definitely, it may sound like, you know, kind of corny, but it's definitely like a project that just kind of was like my dream to come out as, like, really show people like that it can be done today. The records that sounded like so amazing in the 70s, like, you know, the Stevie Wonder records or Marvin Gaye or James Brown, it could be done today with all the gear that's out there. That's like, you know, look at the Neumann U47s and everything. My thing was like, wow, people are sampling, you know, James Brown, you know, Funkadelic, all those records. I'm like, well, why can't we just use the same gear that they used, use tape, and come up with our own organic like sound that kind of is like reminiscent of the 70s, but now we have this like amazing bandwidth with all this technology. So that was pretty much my concept, was just like, okay, we can do this and make it sound even fatter, because now we have automation, and we have like, you know, we have super bandwidth with CD. So now the bass can be even like more like incredible, and like each mix can be like just completely just tweaked out. Like if Eddie Kramer back in the day had this technology, I can't even imagine how that stuff would have sounded, you know. Because now we're really spoiled and we can like automate every little single thing and make it perfect, you know.
So am I right in thinking that this whole album is basically live?
Yeah, I would say probably 85% of it is live. Yeah.
And all recorded to tape?
Every last bit recorded to tape. Yeah.
I mean, was it 5 years in the making, something like that?
It was 3 years altogether.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, Electric Lady Studios is expensive enough. I mean, 2-inch tape is pretty expensive itself.
Yeah, we ended up using like 120 reels of tape and stuff. And then like he didn't like to erase anything, so when we needed more space, we would just make a copy of like one of the 24-track reels, and then we just store that reel. So for some songs, we had like 5 reels for, you know, and like 3 of those reels were just like vocal takes and stuff, you know. Yeah.
I mean, I heard stories that before you even started laying down tracks for the album, there were like cover albums of kind of Marvin albums and Prince albums, and is that true?
Yeah, and I think that's why the spirit of the album is really like that, because from those jams, it just spawned like these songs, you know. So I think that was a whole part of the whole vibe of the album, is like they would just go in there and they would jam on like Stevie covers for like 3 hours, and then an idea would come out of that, and then within, I'd say, an hour they would have something, and I would just like press the record tape, you know.
And presumably those reels still exist somewhere of all those jam sessions.
Yes, there's probably like 50 songs altogether.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love
So
to hear that.
I could see the box set, you know, with all these alternate songs and stuff, the lost D'Angelo tapes.
Yeah. I mean, working with tape, it's like you didn't use any digital audio.
No, there was 3 songs altogether that excuse me, that had to go into Pro Tools, only because it's like we had to edit it down. It was like really long, or there was like a mistake here or there, and we wanted to preserve the whole live performance. So rather than and we try to redo it, you know, we try to redo the take with the musicians, and it just didn't have the same feel. So we ended up having to go into Pro Tools. But even D'Angelo, he's like, I've pretty much like brainwashed him that the Pro Tools is not the best. I mean, it's great for editing. It's great for editing and you know, things like that. But I still think the sound suffers. It's getting better, but at this point, it's still, to me, it doesn't come close to analog, to tape.
Is there ever a point where you'd go to Pro Tools, or you just avoid it at all costs?
I avoid it as much as possible. I still do about 85% of my work on tape. Yeah, and mix everything to tape as well.
I mean, on this record, there's so many layers, especially vocal layering. I mean, on a track like The Root, for example, there must be 30 different voices or something.
There's actually probably more like 40 or something or more. Yeah, because he would like triple each note, and then he'd do 4 parts, and then they'd overlap with each other. So, and when those parts are overlapping, it's like, you know, 16 tracks per part overlapping into another 16 tracks. You know.
But I mean, when you're recording to tape, you can't move anything, right? So it's like every time it's recorded as live, so which makes it even more phenomenal to me. That
every single thing is recorded live. No copying or pasting.
Should we check it out?
Yeah.
Let's listen to this one. I think this is probably the most relevant track in terms of talking about the layering of the vocals. I don't know if you agree. This is a track called The Root.
I think so. Yes.
Right. Sorry, my vinyl's a bit mashed. I played this one a few times.
She done worked the room. Done worked the room that will not be reversed. Yeah, no. And then I go on my phone and her play, no rehearsal. Yeah, said I left my mojo, left my mojo in my favorite suit. Yes, I did, yeah. She left a stain, left a dirty stain in my heart. I can't refute. No, I can't. She done worked the room. In the name of love and more, to my shield and soul. From the pit of the bottom, let those don't flow like the rain to the dirt. From the vine to the vine, from the alpha creation to the end of time. Yeah, till the end of all time. Said I went to the doctor. The man told me there ain't nothing wrong. Yeah, nothing wrong. Yeah. Said, but I beg to differ. I've been feeling this pain much too strong. Oh yeah. Vision of my soul is dead. My blood is cold and I can't feel my legs. Yeah. I need someone to hold me. Bring me back to life before I'm dead. Oh yeah. She done worked the room. In the name of love and more, to my shield and soul. From the pit of the bottom, let those don't flow like the rain to the dirt. From the vine to the vine, from the alpha creation to the end of time. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. Rain shielding soul. From the bed of the bottom, there goes no flow. Like a rain to the dirt, from the fire to the wine, from the outward creation to the end of time. Like the rain to the dirt, from the fire to the wine, from the outward creation to the end of time.
Thank you.
Unbelievable.
It's a really good tune. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, his vocals are just angelic, you know.
Backwards guitar bit, was that you?
Yeah, kind of thought of that idea because I mean they were jamming on song came about when they were jamming out to like Jimi Hendrix covers and stuff. So we were at Electric Lady and I was just like, wow, let's reverse that guitar in that section, you know. Because originally it was just a straight guitar solo and then we just kind of flipped the tape and just played it backwards. We're like, yes, that's it.
And each time layering those vocals, each time that's just D'Angelo coming up with a new harmony and you're just punching it in.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Just every time, live.
Talk to me about the personnel on that record.
Yeah, I mean, Pino Palladino, we met, D'Angelo was invited to do a duet with B.B. King, and we walked in the studio, and Pino was playing the bass, and we were waiting for B.B. to come in, and so they started jamming, and D was on the piano. They started doing these Marvin Gaye covers, and like the whole band was like these veteran musicians that have been like around for like 25 years or whatever. D comes in, he's like 20-something, comes in, just blows everybody away. But he kept looking over at Pino, and he came up to me afterward, and he's like, man, who's that guy on the bass, man? He's playing all this like James Jamerson stuff, and like verbatim too, you know? So we walked up to him, and introduced himself as Pino Palladino. I was like, wow, I've seen his name all over the records and stuff. I'm like finally meeting this guy. Turns out he's a huge D'Angelo fan. So he came to the studio like 3 months after that, and that was it. We just like fell in love with Pino. And then there's Questlove on the drums, kind of associate producer on the album. If you guys aren't familiar, he's a drummer for the Roots and stuff. And so those two got together. They're like those two together is like I don't know. Can't even think of an analogy, but they're basically like brothers. You know, they kind of think the same. They don't even have to. They can just look at each other and know that they should change or you know, they really have this like real strong bond musically and spiritually, I think. You know, so. Hoping they patch things up and he can come back on the record again. But right now they're kind of like in shaky territory. And the guitar player that played on that song, that's Charlie Hunter, was actually playing the bass and guitar at the same time, which is kind of unbelievable. But he plays this 8-string guitar. It's like 5 strings regular guitar. Top 3 strings are bass strings, and he's got these pickups that kind of separate it and just plays it at the same time. It's like he's a real freak of nature, I think, because I can't even think. You know, it's like two heads or something. But he's also playing on the Spanish joint as well. Yeah.
Who's playing the bass on Spanish joint?
That's Charlie. Yeah.
And where did Spanish joint come out of?
Actually, he'd played that song for me on the piano, and he was saying that he should probably get Charlie Hunter on it or something. And on Charlie's last day, he was about to leave, and Dee came up to me and said, well, you know, is there anything I'm forgetting? Is there a song we should try to do? And I was like, well, how about Spanish Joint? And he's like, Spanish Joint, oh shit. So we played it for Charlie, and they did it pretty much. We got the first take. That's the first take you hear. Within like an hour or something, they kind of put the arrangement together, and that was it. You know.
Wow, sorry, we've got to hear that now.
Whenever it rains, feel this way. Little something to get me through this day. Give me a little thing. Don't stop playing. Hey, won't it be a good day? Yeah. Some people in need feel free. Letting go and let on my feet. Yeah, rushed out the bed. Don't stop playing.
That's Charlie playing bass and guitar at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I watched them do it, and I still can't believe it, you know. Like, I listen to it now.
8-string or something?
It's an 8-string, yeah. 3 bass strings, 5 guitar strings on one guitar.
One take?
Yeah, one take. That was the first take. We did like 2 or 3, and we kept listening to the first one. We're like, yeah, that's the one.
I mean, two of the sonic things about this album that make it special is definitely the bass and the drums. Is there any particular approach to recording both that you want to mention? I mean, when it comes to miking the drums particularly, is there any special approach that you have?
Well, for that one, I'd have to say it's partly, or a lot, at least half is the drummer, you know. So it's basically, if the drummer's got a good sound, then it just really makes my job a lot easier. But my approach is basically just getting a good amount of like the whole frequency spectrum, you know, because with drums it goes from like, you know, maybe 30 hertz all the way up into as far as it can go, as far as you can hear, really. You know, drums and the voice probably, you know, the widest frequency spectrums. So basically I'm trying to capture the whole sound, not just individual drums, but like I kind of stay in the room with them and kind of stand like maybe 5 feet away, come a little closer and just kind of walk around and just kind of hear what everything's doing, and then just kind of place the mics when accordingly. But you know, I have a sort of like a similar setup every time. It's just the for depending on the drummer, depending on the room, then I just kind of like move different room mics around, because the overall drum sound in the end, if I track and mix it, it's a sort of like a combination of the separate mics and then the whole like overheads in the room and the room sound. So I'm trying to capture that air that I'm feeling when I'm like right in front of a kit, you know. Yeah.
So on average, how many different mics are you using just for the kit?
Average is probably like eight microphones. Two on the snares, 2 on the kicks, and then a single mic on like the toms. Usually use a single overhead as well. Many people do stereo overheads, but kind of unless it's like a huge like 20-piece kit, then I'll just use a single tube microphone on the top. Yeah.
And what about the recording environment? How important is that? And can you talk to us about Electric Lady Studios and how significant that was in this record?
Yeah, it's funny because when I'd go visit D'Angelo in Richmond, where he lived before we started the album, we were talking about where we should go, how we're gonna do it, we're just conceptualizing it. And I actually at that time period I turned him on to Jimi Hendrix, you know, and he only heard like Purple Haze and like Fire or whatever. So I played him Hendrix, and he just kind of freaked out, like, holy shit, like all my heroes have been influenced by Hendrix, and I never knew it all these years, because he's a huge Prince fan, and like Prince is all about Hendrix. Even his whole stage persona is like all Hendrix. So basically, I've played him some other albums that were done at Electric Lady, like some Stevie Wonder albums and stuff, and like Led Zeppelin albums and stuff. And I said we should go there to record the album, and he was like, "What do you mean? It's still around?" So we went to see the studio, and that was it. We walked into the Studio A, and he's like, "Yeah, let's do the album here." Yeah.
And presumably Virgin were supportive of that at that time.
At that time, they didn't realize, you know, 1.5 million later that you know, we'd still be working on the album. We weren't finished at 1.5 million.
And when it comes to mixing a record like this, what's the start point? I mean, do you do the classic, just put everything up to 0 and get a feel for it, or have you already started mixing it as you're recording it in your mind?
I definitely had an idea as we were tracking it, but overall, and I didn't think it would be as difficult as it was to keep the, because we'd keep bringing like rough mixes home after the end of a take, so we all got used to like hearing it, and it's like super raw form. So I had to just keep the rawness and not not really over EQ'd, or just kind of like I wanted it to like wanted to be like as if someone like found a cassette tape, like some obscure band, and just to like, it's really old but it still plays, so you can hear hisses, and you know, like an old sort of like demo tape or something that was lost or something. And that's the vibe I wanted to like to create, like sort of like subliminally, you know. So kind of it's a little scattered, but there's a reason for it, you know.
And how long did mixing the album take?
Well, some mixes were up for like 2 weeks at times, because D'Angelo was just the perfectionist, and like he'd I mean it'd be up for 2 weeks, but you know, for like 3 or 4 days he wouldn't even like listen to it, and I'd be left there like, okay, what can I do? So I'd like experiment, and which was great for me, but after a while it was like, okay, you know, let's put this to bed. I don't, you know, I was losing perspective and stuff like that. So I think the hardest part at the end was just keeping the perspective, you know, because I was ready in my head. I was ready to move forward, and like this is like already like kind of old, you know. Not that I didn't love it. It was just like I was ready to move on. So the hardest part of the last part of the mixing process was just maintaining what I had done, what we were doing, you know. Yeah.
Talk to me about the track Untitled. How does it feel? Because you just mentioned the Prince and Hendrix influence, and I definitely hear that on that one.
It's funny because I can, every song I can think of clearly a few stories to every song, but for Untitled, we're already, you know, we already like passed like 10 deadlines, you know. A year, it was like probably like 2 years later, you know, and he walks up to me and he says, hey, I want to cut this new song. And I looked at him like, okay, you want to cut this new song? We have 50 songs we can work on. And I just kind of walked out, you know, because like at that time, nobody could pressure D'Angelo. So the record label came to me, put pressure on me to try to put pressure on D'Angelo. So that's what I was feeling. We're like, okay, we're just hugely over budget. You know, like I said, it was probably like the 10th deadline that we missed already. And he's trying to cut a new song. I walked out the studio and just kind of walked around, had a beer. He came back and he said, come on, Russ, as if nothing happened, and just played me the song. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, okay, let's record it. Yeah, and that was the last song that I recorded for the album. The single was it. Yeah.
Already got me right where you want me, baby. I just want you, man. make you well. In between your thighs, I love when it comes. Sunny view. I get so excited when I'm around you, baby. Oh, baby. How does it feel? Feel, yeah. How does it feel? Yeah. So did it ever cross your mind? How does it feel? Wow, baby. Oh, how does it feel? Yeah. How does it feel? Yeah, man, I feel, yeah. How does it feel? Yeah, it's been on my mind. How does it feel? Oh, how does it feel? All time. Said it's been on my mind, yeah. Baby, close the door. Listen, girl, I got a thing I want to show you. All I wish you could be you know that I wanna take the walls down. You, oh, yeah. If you want me to, baby, yeah. Only if you want me to, baby.
So the record that we're listening to is a complete album. I was interested to get your take on the concept of the album, basically, and the LP, which seems to be an increasingly lost art form in itself.
Oh, the album, an album in
the concept
general.
of a complete album,
Yeah.
you know, an LP that you want to listen to from start to finish.
Yeah.
How relevant is it, you know, putting together music in LP format in 2007? How do you keep that alive? Because this definitely feels like an album that's mixed and programmed and everything as an LP experience as opposed to just random songs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what really how to turn that around. It's just 'cause now it's like it's all about the producer, especially in like the hip hop and R&B world. It's no longer about the artist. It's more about the who's producing it. Like, you know, oh yeah, it's a new artist who Timbaland produced it. Oh, it should be good. Or, you know, Missy produced it, or whoever. And then there's like 20 songs of like just completely whack material. And, you know, you buy it and then you're just like 2 songs and like, what a waste of time. So no wonder everyone's downloading, because they don't want to spend, you know, the cash for like 2 songs on an album's worth of like complete garbage, you know.
What are some of your favorite LPs of all time?
Of all time?
Yeah, and why? In terms of sound, as well as content.
Definitely all of the Jimi Hendrix albums. Definitely a big influence. Grew up playing guitar and everything, and just the way like his records would make you feel, you know. Same thing with like all the Beatles records, you know. There's a certain sound, even to this day, like, you know, I'll pick something up and be like, holy shit, I didn't realize they compressed the drums on this part, or or what have you, and Stevie Wonder, his album is just there's this raw quality that's kind of just everything sounds like it's in the room, So it's like when you close your eyes, I want you to feel like the drummer's sitting right there, and the vocals over there, and the horns and stuff. Pink Floyd, I was a big Pink Floyd fan, But are you talking about just records in general,
I guess more from from a mix and sound perspective, but just as an overall LP experience.
Definitely Dark Side of the Moon is a really awesome from top to bottom, When I was growing up in New York, they used to, there's a radio station, I think they're still around, WNEW, and they would play Perfect Album Sides, I think they played it every Thursday at a certain time. People would call in and they would, request a perfect album side. So one of those would be Abbey Road is another great, just from top to bottom. You don't want to take the needle off the record, till you have to turn it over.
And how depressing is it when you have put all that work in and then you have to hear it as an MP3?
I've gotten really used to it, but because it's just you can't help it anymore, And it's a shame that it's the substandard that's become a standard, Only out of really not because people prefer it. It's just out of necessity, With iPods, you can get this little iPod shuffle now, and you can put your songs in there, I mean, it's cool for what that is, but as far as like people don't really care about it anymore, which is kind of sad. But I'm one of the guys that's just gonna try to keep it alive, because if you compare something that I did in analog, and you compared it to something done all in digital, there's just no comparison. I'm sorry, it's just hands down you can't really compare it,
But I mean, even to the extent if I was playing a WAV or an AIF off that computer and off CD, you could hear the difference between of those two as well. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the converters. People don't realize that if you take care in every step of the process, it's gonna show by the end of it. If you skip a process or kind of cheat on the middle of the process and then come back to if you go in and out of it, it's gonna show. It's gonna show. But if you're careful through the whole process, meaning you could have used a great mic pre, but the vocalist was in a rush and you had to do something, or and you couldn't use that particular thing, or you could have used tape that day, but it was just easier because the Pro Tools was up. But if you take the time and actually do it instead of saying, "Oh, we can do it easier this way," it's gonna show at the end of the project. You're gonna be like, "Wow, I'm so glad I did this." And if you take every step and take it to the end, it's gonna show. It really is. And that's how come these records, they sound like that,
I mean, when you're listening to your iPod or whatever, are you putting only AIF and WAV on there?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And actually, just got my first iPod this year. I never had an iPod. It took me 10 years to buy a CD player for my house. That's how just huge analog fan I am.
But from a mixing perspective, how important is it to know what it's going to sound like when it does go there? I mean, because it will go there. So like in the old days when people used to mix on crappy speakers, so they knew what it would sound like on the radio. Is that consideration now for you when you know that people are going to be listening to it as a crap MP3?
I don't consider that at all. But I do listen to it on my computer. I listen to as many, especially if I'm in a studio that, if I go to Europe to mix a project and I'm in a completely foreign studio, I'll just play it on as many systems as I can, I'll try to go to a club, try to play it in a club, and different cars, the shittiest speaker I can find, I'll try to play it on there. Because if it's got to translate everywhere. So that's pretty much a standard for me. Just every time I do a mix, I take it home, I bring it in the car, and listen to it, and I play it on like 2 or 3 before I finally tweak it in the next day.
Because a lot of DJs, I guess, and music collectors that are transferring their stuff into digital now may have started off like you and been purist about everything's got to be AIF, WAV, 44.1, CD quality, PCM, whatever. And then after a while realized that actually if you're going to put your music collection on there, you're going to need some NASA level storage in order to kind of fit it all on.
Yeah.
And some people say, well, that, you know, if you take the Pepsi challenge on a 320 MP3 and a AIF, the average person would never get it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still quite upsetting to you to hear your music compressed even to that level, right?
I guess it used to bother me, but I've gotten so used to it that it really doesn't bother me anymore. But the mixes, like, originally were done really well, so it's when it gets down to that level, it's I can hear different things, but I just don't even pay attention.
Would you rather hear your music played off vinyl or CD?
Well, if it's on vinyl, it's got to be a good system, you know, and I think that's one of the reasons a lot of people don't have it in their homes, because you really do need a good turntable. You need a good system. But CDs, you can pretty much get away with like a smaller system and still have it sound like loud and and have bass and stuff, you know. So for me, I prefer the vinyl, but I'll listen to the CD, sure.
So you're recording, you're not going anywhere near a computer, basically. You're just printing everything to tape, everything analog. For those people who have basic setups at home and don't have Neve desks in their front room and access to an SSL on the weekend or whatever, what steps can we take to, you know, ensure that we can record good quality vocals in a bedroom situation, or, you know, a nice guitar part? You know, what are basic approaches to making sure that we can do that well to its best standard?
I would say look at your budget, and it really starts with a good microphone and a good mic pre. You know, you don't have to buy a Neve console, but you can buy like something close, like a really, really good high quality mic pre, you know. So I would say just try to, if you're looking for that quality within your, but you don't have a major budget, I would say save up for a really good mic pre and a really good microphone, or at least a medium level microphone. Don't buy the all you can do boxes, you know. I'd say just wait a little bit, save money for the level up above that, and so it definitely starts from there. As far as recording into Pro Tools, same thing. It's using high quality converters. You know, I know some converters can be really expensive, but there's medium quality converters that's affordable these days. But would definitely stay away from the all-in-one boxes, you know. But if you know, those boxes are good if you're starting out and you can really like tweak out your sound and stuff, you know, by all means, you know, it's really how you're perceiving your sound. It's how you're approaching your music and stuff too, you know. So you know, anybody can use, you know, you have to use what you can. But if you're limited, you know, it's all about your ears, you know. It really is. There's definitely crappy systems that I would stay away from. That just makes everything sound like crap. But you know, that's why you should test everything out before you buy it and stuff, or word of mouth and stuff, you know. But you know, there's no getting around really, really high quality gear, you know.
Are you finding that loads of studios around the world are closing around you?
Yeah, it's pretty much drying up, unfortunately, and it's because of the Pro Tools revolution. You know, everything's kind of people used to go in. When I started interning in '86, so back then people were still coming into the studio to do their demos. So people would make deals with the studio manager and say, hey, I want to cut a demo. Can you do it for this price, X amount of days? And then that person would end up working in the studio because the manager looked out for them, and they're like, okay, yeah. So when they get signed, they do the album there. So you see the whole process from kind of like the beginning. And now people are doing demos in their house, which is fine. It's just the evolution of production. But there's that whole people can just do it in their homes. So now the recording studio is just kind of like, especially labels, they don't want to spend the money anymore. The recording budgets have gone way down because they know you can do everything in Pro Tools, and you can cut an album for X amount of money. So yeah, it's really killed the studio business for sure.
Okay, so with studios shutting down, and everyone's got an M-Box, no one's got a Studer 2-inch tape at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you, as an engineer, how do you maintain the standard that you care so much about? How do you keep that alive?
Well, fortunately, most people will kind of like ask me, what format would you want it on, or they'll ask me for advice. I mean, again, fortunately, most people that are wanting to work with me, they know I'm gonna mix their album, or if I'm gonna cut it or whatever, they'll actually like make sure to record it as best as possible. So I'm kind of spoiled.
How important is mastering to the final sound of an album? How much percent of the final sound is down to the mastering?
It's down to the mastering. It depends. If you get someone to mix the album and it really sucks, then the mastering person can really save it at the end of the day and push the frequencies that are missing or delete whatever. So in that respect, that a mastering engineer can really save you. And a lot of times people are coming in with Pro Tools files with like stems, and they're kind of like remixing the album in mastering. So now these days, mastering sessions can go on for 2 days because they're actually kind of redoing levels. They'll have everything separated, drums, bass, and vocals and everything, and they'll kind of like, they'll make the final decisions at the mastering. So, but if your mixes are really good, then the mastering is just a little bit of icing, and getting the level up to CD level. Yeah.
Do you want to talk to us about some of the other artists that you worked with over the past few years, and maybe give us a couple of examples?
No, I just want to talk about D'Angelo. No, just kidding. Well,
I know that you've worked with a number of amazing artists over the last 10 years, and I know you've worked with Common, with The Roots, with Erykah Badu.
Yeah.
I mean, where does the role of engineer, like recording engineer and mix engineer, end and producer begin? Or is that line a bit blurry?
It's a pretty blurry line, yeah. I think the really good mixers should really get more of a co-production credit on material, because in the end, it's really, it's in the hands of the mixer. Most people come to me and I've never heard the album before, and I come in with fresh ears, and it takes a lot of trust from people to just hand me something that they've been working on for a year or whatever, and say, here, see what you can do with it. So the really good mixers should they do a lot of like production, in the end. Yeah.
So say, for example, like on a track like The Seed, The Roots, The Seed, that's got a very particular sound to it, like almost like an era sound.
Yeah.
Is that something that
That's
you're
a great
coming up with,
example.
or
Yeah. Well, it was actually me and Amir. Questlove, he pretty much gives me the concept. He and I have a good relationship that way. He's, out of all the artists and producers that I've worked with, besides D'Angelo, Amir is definitely one of the people that can push me the furthest, and I feel like I need to. Every time I work with him, I feel I just need to push myself further than I would feel working with other artists. Because he's very experimental. So both both of us being very experimental and creative, we kind of just feed off each other and stuff. So the seed, he said he just wanted to go for like it sounded like a garage, like a garage band, but high fidelity. So like a high fidelity garage band, you know. So he said just go for like the biggest drums, but old sounding as you can get, you know. So yeah, basically just experimented until I could get the drums like sounding huge without overpowering everything, you know. So
You got that?
yeah. Let's see where it is. It's track 10.
Which album's that from?
Phrenology.
Okay, The Roots.
The Roots, yeah.
You seem to manage to get like era sounds representing a particular era in some of your work, like that tune "Green Eyes" by Erykah Badu.
Yeah.
What was the concept for that? Because it kind of seems to go from old school quality, kind of almost old school jazz texture, all the way through. Like there's 3 big sections, it seems, sonically to that.
That's exactly what it is. The producer and James Boyser and Erykah came up to me and said, you know, it's like we want to tell a story and we want to go through these different eras, just exactly what you said. So kind of Billie Holiday-ish type of a thing in the beginning, into sort of like a 60s jazz era, and then to the modern age of like D'Angelo or R&B, you know. So yeah, that was the definite concept as it moved through each section.
And like, say, if I came into your studio and said, you know, I want to make a record that sounds like a Billie Holiday era record, technically, what would you do to achieve that?
I would just research what they had when they were recording Billie Holiday, and I would just really try to get the gear, or just try to emulate it with what I had, you know. Yeah, I mean the process is kind of it just kind of happens as I go along, you know. But I do reference different music when I mix, especially if I'm going for a particular sound.
And what did you use on that track?
I definitely listened to Billie Holiday for that first section, and big jazz lover too. So for the middle section, I definitely knew I could you know just kind of stay in like the Miles Davis kind of kind of thing, you know.
And then what's the last bit? It's kind of present day or something.
Present day, yeah.
Do you want to check that out? Yeah.
It's a long one.
It's a long one. It's a long tune, but you have to hear the whole thing to really get the progression up for it. Everyone still with us? Yeah. Yeah. No one's falling asleep. All right. All right. Cool. What track number is it?
Oh, it's
You asked for it. 10 minutes long.
Yeah, a lot of these artists, they actually come to me and like I call them the epic songs, and they know I can like really tackle it. And I love the challenge of the when the artist comes up with like a song that really represents them. It's like one of the special ones on the album. It's not the one that the record label's freaking out over. It's their special personal songs. And I'm flattered that a lot of them like save particular songs for me because I can take it to like the epic sort of thing, you know.
Let's check it out.
My eyes are green 'cause I eat a lot of vegetables. It don't have nothing to do with your new friend. My eyes are green 'cause I eat a lot of vegetables. It don't have nothing to do with your new friend. I don't care, I swear. I'm too through with you. I am. You don't mean nothing to me. So go ahead and be with your friend. My eyes are green 'cause I eat a lot of vegetables. It don't have nothing to do with your new friend. I'm insecure, but I can't help it. My mind says move on. My heart lags behind, but I don't love you anymore. I'm so insecure, never knew that love did this. I can't remember the last time I felt this way about somebody. You've done something to my mind, and I can't control it. But I don't love you anymore. Yes, I do. I think loving you is wrong. I'm so confused. You tried to trick me, yeah.
Again, totally amazing, man. I mean, how long does something like that take to even start to put together?
I remember working 3 to 4 days on that one. Yeah, because the drums were all for the second part and third part. They were all recorded at one shot, so I had to kind of make those drums sound different in both sections. And originally we were gonna mix it in 2 different times, but just as a flow, I think I decided like I should just do it all in one shot, you know. So it took about 3 to 4 days, and then Erykah wanted to change something, so I had to actually recall it, get all my settings back on all of my analog gear, and kind of like remix it again. Yeah, so pretty much 6 days, 7 days, if you count the first and second time.
And when it comes to recalling and that kind of stuff, I mean, how complex is that when you're working purely in the analog world?
Well, yeah, there's definitely, it's definitely a process. It's like, which is one of the things I wanted to touch on was, you know, there's no longer the apprentice, you know. There's, you know, there's special, it's like a craft, you know, and I think the craft is really starting to die, you know. That's why I came here to do this, so that I, you know, could just kind of hopefully inspire people to just kind of keep the recording art alive, you know, because now you've got all these like plugins and it can make it sound like this and this and that, but you know, you should really like try to research how that sound, you know, because these sounds aren't new. These are just old sounds, you know, that came about from, you know, like from all these earlier engineers that were experimenting with tape, and you know, because everything is all tape-based effects. Everything is just a delayed. You're just kind of manipulating the sound to be delayed, so you can create phasing, you can create flanging, you can create doubling, and then delays. You know, so I think it's just kind of like people should learn that there was a certain standard at one point, and I think it's come down to a substandard, you know. So I think people should really try to. I know there's not many studios.
Yeah, where can I? I mean, if I want to do that, where can I do that?
I mean, it's just that unfortunately there's not a lot of studios to do it. But you know, I learned everything when I was interning and assisting. You know. Just, you know, spent years. It took me like about 6 years before I finally went freelance as an engineer. And during the transitional phase, I just worked with anybody, you know, until I got to a point where I could just, you know, work with, you know, better artists and stuff like that. But there's definitely no, it's just about experience, and you know, I've been doing it for 21 years now. So there's definitely, you know, if you do it for a certain amount of time, you eventually have to pick something up, you know. But there's definitely no substitute for experience, absolutely, you know. But that's what one would do. Would be try to either do an apprenticeship with an engineer, or try to work for a major studio, and just kind of just be around that environment, you know. Assisting is where I learned a lot of stuff, because I assisted for many different engineers, you know. So yeah, it's just learning the craft of like just basic microphone placement, what microphone to use, studio etiquette, you know, just the vibe of like how to treat the artist to make them as comfortable as possible, so you can get the best performance. A lot of people aren't learning that these days, you know. They're not learning just the craft. It's not a craft anymore, you know. So hopefully it can come back and teach some more about it, you know. I was actually offered to do some stuff at Berkeley, so I'm probably gonna end up doing that at some point and try to just pass it along before it completely dies, you know.
You're going to be around for a little while, right? So we can hopefully get some direct one-to-one tuition in some of the studios as well. A little
Yes,
bit.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Talking of recording, you know, you just mentioned recording loads of different types of scenarios. Do you ever record orchestras and choirs and that kind of thing as well?
Recorded a couple choirs, not a huge orchestra. I think it was like a 20 piece was the biggest that I've done. I'd love to track like a 100-piece orchestra. That's kind of one of my like I need to do that before I die or something. Because just kind of I like the challenge of trying to get the best recording in like in these situations that I used to dream about and when I was younger. Like recording my first live. When the first time I recorded a live band, I was just like so excited, and I really like the challenge of trying to get like the best drum sound I can get, the best bass drum, the best horns, best any sound, really.
And talking to choirs, actually, in terms of that bigger sound, I didn't actually know until yesterday that you mixed a record that's been a big record for me, DJ-wise as well, which is a tune by Ty Tribbett called Mighty Long Way,
Right.
which features how many piece choir?
It's 20-piece choir.
And how'd you go about recording that?
Again, James Poyser, who produced the Erykah Badu stuff, he played keyboards on Voodoo, and he did the Voodoo tour and everything. Worked with Lauryn Hill. I'm trying to give James his props because he doesn't get it enough. So, but he's extremely talented. Basically, he still plays in his church in Philly. It's a huge congregation every Sunday. So he really just comes from the church. He's like really the choir sort of arranger, So he's been working with this group, and he asked me to mix it. Not a lot of people know of this group, but the people that do, and they realize I worked on it. They're like, holy shit, like I never knew about this, and like everybody should hear it. But it's just one of those albums that are just incredible, but no one knows about it.
Well, let's have a listen. Have you got Mighty Long Way?
Sure.
Let's see. This is Ty Tribbett.
Turn me up a little bit, Ryan. Cool. Everybody just look back. Woo. Feel good now. Now everybody just look back. Now everybody just look back. Look where he brought me from. Look where he brought me from. Woo. Look where he brought me from. Now everybody just look back. Look where he brought me from. Look where he brought me from. Now everybody just look back. Look where he brought me from. One more time, sing it. Look where he brought. Listen, he brought me from a mighty long way.
Wow, indeed. There was a couple of you were just mentioning. There's a couple of songs you wanted to talk us through quickly in terms of other sounds and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just put together a playlist of like just trying to encompass all like, most of the things that I do. So just play a couple quick snippets of them.
Well, maybe talk us through a few of them, and then we'll open it out to the floor if you've got any questions to ask about the tunes. Yeah.
Okay. This one's Blackalicious. I don't know if anyone's heard of them. That's the first track. Just a good tune. Saul Williams is doing the poetry in the middle section. So just not sure when I'm gonna be able to fade this. It's gonna might be a longer snippet than the rest of it because it kind of needs to go into that section. So here it is.
Sedatives that'll give average letterman calluses. Reckon with savageness, catalyst battling rappers to stagger right after the dagger is left on the cherished this caliber. Attica shatter your algebra with calculus. Damage your patterns, I'm pounding you so fabulous. Enough is enough, and I'm busting up out of this shell. An eruption, your structure, and fuck with your up in your gut, you a customer. Puffing and buffing, discussing absolutely nothing. Disgusting me, plus infinity's up in me, rushing your country percussion. No one be destructing the boundaries. Wake up if you're lunching. I'm something, you're nothing. I'm something, you running. I'm hunting for one MC's one, and I'm stopping by foot through your armies. They couldn't have stopped me with shotty, tidity, wadity, wide to these entire societies. Inside of societies, and survivors still remain alive. MC, driving the flow. I'm finna go 555 syllables ago, splitting with a subliminal intentional digital probe. Unlimited flows, done riveted, inhibited, visited. Now you can't get rid of it. Like what is this? Magnificent, intimate, intimate, infinity, internet center when I get big fat heads like X Benedict. Pins, bled, shit, red, wet, worse in a beast mode. Energy is time.
Inner breathlessness, out of restlessness. By the time I caught up to freedom, I was out of breath. Grandma asked me what I'm running for. I answer I'm out for the same thing the sun is sunning for. What mother's birth her youngins for. And some say Jesus coming for. For all I know, the earth is spinning slow. Sun's at half mast, cause masses ain't aglow. On bended knee, prostrate before an altered tree. I've made the forest suit me. Tables and chairs, papers and prayers, matter for a spirit, a metal ladder, a wooden cross, a plastic bottle of water, a mandala encased in glass, a spirit encased in flesh, sound from shaped hollows, the thickest of mucus released from heightened passion, a man that cries in his sleep, a truth that has gone out of fashion, a mode of expression, a paint-splattered wall, a carton of cigarettes, a bouquet of corpses, a dying forest, a nurtured garden, a privatized prison, a candle with a broken wick, a puddle that reflects the sun, a piece of paper with my name on it. I'm surrounded, I surrender all that I am, I have been. All I have been has been a long time coming. I am becoming all that I am. The spittle that surrounds the mouthpiece of the flute, unheard yet felt, a gathered wetness, a quiet moisture, sound trapped in a bubble, released into wind. Wind fellows and land merchants, we are history's detergent, water-soluble light particles, articles of cleansing breath, articles amending death. These words are not tools of communication, they are shards of metal, dropped from 8-story windows. They are waterfalls and gas leaks, aged thoughts rolled in tobacco leaf, the tools of a trade, barters barred, barred of barters, catchphrases and misunderstandings, but they are not what I feel when I am alone, surrounded by everything and nothing, and there isn't a word, a phrase to be caught, a verse to be recited, a mantra to fill my being in those moments. I am a blankness, the contained center of an O, the pyramidic containment of an A. I stand in the middle of all that I have learned, all that I have memorized, all that I have known by heart, unable to reach any of it. There is no sadness, there is no bliss, it is a forgotten memory, a memorable escape route that only is found by not looking. There, in the spine of the dictionary, the words are worthless. They are a mere weight pressing against my thoughtlessness. But then, who else can speak of thoughtlessness with such confidence? Who else has learned to sling these ancient ideas like dead rats held by their tails, so as not to infect this newly oiled skin?
Yeah, that's a group that's Blackalicious. These guys from San Francisco Bay Area. Kind of got hooked up with them through the Roots, and another producer who's just kind of lets me be as creative as possible. And when someone gives me that freedom, it just, the mixes kind of just take a life of its own, you know. So that particular one, that's Saul Williams. Who's an amazing poet. He's our modern day poet. It's basically just two guys. Gift the Gab is doing the rap, and this guy Chief XL is doing the beats and stuff. Just two guys. Yeah. Yeah, just one more song. It's this guy called Keziah Jones. I don't know if you know of him. He's a guitar player he's from Lagos, but he went to school in England and got signed to a label in Paris. So kind of like that's track 9. Kind of like a wacky sort of song where the drums change like a few different times.
Honey to the honeybee, honeybee to honey. From this black Orpheus and his guitar to Eurydice. From JJ from Good Times a Dope to the black superhero. 72 kilos of Nigerian weed. From rugged in London, Tokyo, to rugged in Paris. From immigration to McDonald's with a false identity. From a university degree to driving a taxi. 72 kilos of Nigerian weed. From there to the place where they do the 419. From a Boots's tailor to Mrs. Sunny about your shrink. From Crosby Canaan in the book to the black of the berry thing. 72 kilos of Nigerian weed. From Brazil, Cuba, Yoruba to Afro paradise. From Rara, Orisha to Felani's wives. From music, war and sexy books to a nuclear form or ice. 72 kilos of Nigeria.
Keziah Jones, right? Okay, any questions?
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for the amazing tracks and
Welcome.
interesting lecture. But anyway, how do you design your stereo image? Like, do you draw a map or something? You have an idea of that where should everything be, and you how do you make it there? Like,
Don't really have a plan when I start it. I just kind of feel it as the mix progresses. Sometimes I start off with maybe the guitar on one side, but at the end it ends up in the middle or wherever. But it's kind of just a feel thing, you know. Other times I'll approach it where maybe the rhythm section can just kind of be off to the side, and I'm really big with like trying to make everything kind of separate. So a lot of times my approach is just picturing musicians in the room, so when someone listens to it, they can actually, like, if they close their eyes, picture people just kind of in the room and stuff.
yeah, okay, thanks. And how have you trained your ears? Like, have you been just listening to music and closing your eyes and listening that how is this done and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that?
I mean, I used to. I just always loved how things sounded. I've always been the one that, you know, when got to somebody's house, I would EQ their system, and like everybody's cars, I would, like, you know, tweak every. Like, I've always been like that for my whole life, basically. You know, in my teenage years, I would just lock myself in a room and smoke pot and just listen to music, and just by myself. I just pull out a bunch of albums and I would just sit there for hours and just listen. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And one more question. If you like, if someone comes to you and asks for a certain sound like that, you should get a natural drum sound or something. So where do you refer? Because there's so many starting points. Like for a drummer, for example, the natural sound is the one you hear on the drummer's seat, and for someone on the audience, it's the sound you hear from the PA or stuff
Okay.
like that.
So what the question is, what's my reference?
Yeah, like
Really, it's just something I hear in my head, you know. Something sometimes while the band is rehearsing, it will immediately click, and I can just kind of go for something. But most of the time, it just kind of develops, you know, because the drummer will usually feed off the sound that I'm giving him, and just kind of becomes sort of like just a relationship, you know, that happens. Yeah.
okay, yeah, thanks.
Hey man.
Hi.
Yeah, it was amazing, alright.
Thank you.
Have you ever had a chance to work with, like you're saying, you kind of did your apprenticeship. Did you work with Tom Dowd at all? Or?
I wish.
Yeah.
I really wish. Yeah, that guy was amazing, man. True innovator. Definitely one of my heroes for production, for record production. Yeah.
Any of the other guys like George Martin or Glenn Jones?
As far as engineers, no. I bumped into George Martin one day, which kind of freaked me out. He was, but I would say like the biggest engineer producer I worked with probably be Bob Stone, who did all the Queen stuff, as well as I've worked with kind of on and off with Eddie Kramer, this guy Michael Barbiero, and it's probably about it. But yeah, I would have died at the chance to work with like George Martin or something, or Tom Dowd. Yeah.
Also, are you involved with the mastering as well? Like, do you sit in on the mastering sessions? And
Yes, absolutely. Especially if I do the entire album, you know, because it's easy enough for someone he doesn't even know what the vision was to begin with, and then just, you know, he'll just tweak it to his ears, you know. So yeah, I definitely make sure I'm there for the mastering. Yeah, and in which case I don't really don't touch too much of it, because by the time it gets to mastering, I really know I've heard it in a couple systems and I know what to tweak, you know.
And are you really pushing the bass, like the bottom end on the stuff? He plays really tight, but it's right there. Like, are you maxing it out onto the tape, or?
Yeah, that comes from the master. Yeah, that's not done in mastering. Yeah, it comes when I'm mixing. Yeah, the bottom is there.
Cool, man. Cheers.
Thanks.
Hey.
Hi.
First of all, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have any tips on properly miking upright pianos?
A piano.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. Basically, with if you had like some good tube mics, it really shines on the piano. You can get away with some Neumann condensers and stuff, but really the best sounds I've gotten was usually using some tube microphones, like some Neumann, like U67s, or I've used like C24s, you know, stereo mics and stuff. Yeah.
How many mics are you generally using?
Two normally. Yeah, I'll either try to go for a stereo mic or I just kind of do the XY. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey.
Hi.
We kind of talked about my question 2 seconds ago, but yeah, I just want to ask you. I spend my life in cars listening to my music, try to get the mixing right, and I'm just wondering, what is the exact difference on a track before and after the mastering session? I mean, in terms of, you know, how achieved is the song when you come into the mastering session? Because you just said, you surprised me actually, that the guys are actually still tweaking up the tracks on Pro Tools on the mastering session, and to me it's, you know, I just have the conception of people still sending tapes to mastering. I don't know if you know what I mean. So, even though I've never seen a tape in my life, but it's just in my mind. That's the way it is. It's like you have to bring your final product, right, and make it. And so, just beside the bottoms that you just mentioned, what is exactly like the difference? Yeah, the process, the difference. I know that, for example, mastering studio, because it's a proper step, looks totally different, for example, than a mixing studio, right?
Yeah.
So just what exactly is it that is done in there?
Well, most of the time, once you before it gets to mastering it, it's the CD, the level of the master mixes are not quite as loud as the levels that are on CD.
Okay.
So that's one part, and then the other part would be to it's sort of like you're done with everything, and now you can just kind of put the icing on. So you know, if the quality's good and it's been properly produced and engineered and stuff.
With the general levels of the tracks that you mixed, right?
The general levels of the master mix.
Okay.
Once it's actually I've mixed it to the half inch, you know. Then it goes there, and it's basically just sort of a little bit of like fine tuning, just maybe just brighten it up just a touch, or put a little bit more bottom or less bottom or something, you know.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, how are you? Thanks for coming to share the information with us.
No problem.
Really good. I got a few little questions. Just say you're writing just say you're mixing a tune, and it's just going to be put on a CD. Just say it's a drum and bass tune to be played on a dub reggae, a proper sound system, and the bass line, say it's a detuned 808 or a sine wave bass line sitting around 50 or 60 hertz. Would you high pass that bass line at like around 20 or 30 hertz?
Yeah, if it needs it, yeah, sure. Sometimes you'd be surprised. Sometimes actually taking out bass will create more bass. It's really as far as just on a mixing aspect, it's all about the frequencies that could be it's called masking, and if it's just something that's really you can't explain all the time on a technical level, but just orally, just listening to it after it gets to your ear, sometimes it could create an illusion of like where there's like phasing, but different frequencies that are clashing together could actually phase itself out and create like dead space, or a frequency will jump out at you. So actually pulling out a frequency could create more room and actually push either bass or what have you. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. I've got a few more. What's your view on like boosting EQs during mixing?
Boosting?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I don't really have any rules. If you need to push it to get a certain effect and it feels good to you, then by all means, I've pushed lots of EQs in my day. Yeah, is that what you mean?
Yeah, totally.
Like just kind of drastic EQing.
Yeah, or just boosting EQs. Some people say, stay what.
Either additive or subtractive.
Yeah, like adding certain frequencies to say a vocal or to a kick drum or something, as opposed to just cutting frequencies out of a certain sound.
Yeah, I kind of do both. As I've been like just going through my career, now when I'll kind of like start by either cutting or boosting and see which one works the best for me. Yeah.
And also, if you just say you're going to master a tune just for a CD to be played in a club, what processes would you go through in the just software for people who don't have and can't access hardware? What processes would you go in terms of mastering, like the steps of EQ or compression or limiter and that type of things?
For if you don't have like analog gear or something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure because I never do it that way. I couldn't even tell you which what plugins to use because I don't do it. I don't use it.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Any advices if you are writing for sound systems and you are writing in mono? Do you have any advices in that?
Sorry, say again.
If you're writing tunes specifically for sound systems, and you're writing in mono, do you have any advice for that?
If you're trying to mix in mono and just with one speaker, is that what you mean?
Yeah, like if you're writing a tune in mono because you know that you're going to be playing in certain clubs, and the clubs only have the sound systems run in mono.
Okay.
Yeah, like do you have any advices if you're writing tunes in mono for that purpose?
No. I mean, it's good to I mix quite a bit in mono at a certain point. I'll use it's called an Ortone. It's just kind of like a 3-inch speaker. It's like just like a cube. So I'll go to that a lot to get levels and low too. You don't have to really crank it up to hear everything. In fact, things get like harmonies become clearer when you've got it at like a minimum level.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey again. Hey, do you think it's helped that you have, you're saying that you played guitar before, that kind of being a musician or having an interest as a musician has helped you to kind of, get those journeys and the epic kind of mixes that, like with the artists that you're working with?
I think it definitely helps. Any sort of musical background obviously is going to help you through if you're wanting to be specifically an engineer or producer or both. But I definitely think it helps in relating to artists and how they're trying to get their song across, or if they're trying to explain to you, or even just helping the session move a little better, as far as like knowing when different sections are going to come up, or hearing that, because like a vocalist can be in the room or a horn player and they may not be able to hear that they're off key, and if you're not really a musician, you might not be able to hear that the person is like off, so things like that would definitely helps the session on a technical level. But it's not to say that you have to be a musician to do that.
Cool.
Yeah.
What is the exact difference between an engineer and a producer? If you're suggesting ideas to to the person who's recording. Is that kind of then a producer role, or?
Well, technically, I guess back in the day, the producer was kind of like it's like the director, basically. Kind of points the people into the right direction and kind of steers them along, or tries to get an emotion, or kind of directs the whole band, or what have you. And then the engineer would be sort of just the technical guy. I look at the engineer like a cinematographer, and then the producer as a director. This was, that's the kind of traditional roles. But now the producer, sort of like the songwriter. Engineer's roles, I guess, have always remained, but the producer now, it seems to be not that person that kind of directs the whole thing. They're kind of like the songwriter, for at least for like R&B and pop music.
Thank you.
One more question. When you put some stuff on vinyl, do you send a tape and they record the vinyl from a tape, so they won't be in a digital format so it will be all the time only analog?
Wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So do you when you put some stuff on vinyl? So do you send them a tape, or how do they record the vinyl?
Oh yeah, that's a good question, because most of the vinyl, I could just call them transfers now. They're not. It's not really vinyl mastering anymore. It's still it still comes off the digital master for the CD, and they just kind of transfer it onto the lathe. But the true analog mastering is a huge process. So for people that are still really want to do it these days, it's like a huge calibration, and because everything's CD now, it's kind of gets like stored in the back, and then with the few times that people need this machine to get the proper analog mastering, it costs a lot of money. So a lot of times, they're using the digital master to make the vinyl copy.
Yeah, so you can basically maintain the analog format all the time.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Hi. You post. My friend told me you post on a forum about sound techniques or something.
I'm sorry?
Do you post on a forum? A friend of mine told me you post on a forum about
different
technique. What's the address?
It's gearsluts.com.
Gearsluts.
It's gearsluts with a Z at the end instead of an S. Yeah. Cool. And if you scroll, once you get to the homepage, you scroll down to the bottom, and I'm like in the archives for I think they call it guest spot or whatever.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Also, just out of curiosity, I remember in the sleeve notes for Voodoo, you were referred to as Russ the Dragon. And what's that about? Because you've got a tattoo as well.
Yeah, it's actually because I've got some dragon tattoos, and his manager, me and Dee got a tattoo together at the same time.
Oh, nice.
And when his manager saw it, he was like, "Oh, we're gonna call you the Dragon from now on." And it's funny because I said once we were done with it, I wanted to have my credit just proper Russell Elevado, because I was so proud of it. I'm like, I don't want like some nickname attached to it, because just proper. And they put it on there anyway, and I was really pissed at first, and then it just kind of became a thing, and now I'm like, okay, well, whatever. So now people ask me, do you want the dragon? You want it on there or not? And I just say, well, you decide. I don't care. You can put it on if not.
Cool.
Hi, thanks for the whole experience. But I would like to ask if you don't use any sort of digital instruments in your analog recording setup? Never.
No, sometimes I do. Yeah.
Like
I mean,
synthesizer or something.
Oh yeah, of course. It really depends on the session, but a lot of times, the artists that are coming to me are sort of on the same sort of thing anyway. So most of my clients are bringing in analog keyboards and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. But I don't say, if I see a digital piece, I'm like, no, get it out of here. I'm not like that, you know. As long as you can get a sound out of it. I prefer analog. It's what I'm used to.
I can understand that.
It's what I can make sound really good. So, you know.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
Hey man, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah. It was something you touched on before about certain mics you could get. I mean, there are a lot of live musicians here, and we got some vocalists, some horn players, and it would be good to kind of, if you could expand on that, like a good, I know Neumann's are good, but I couldn't go on and tell them, okay, for vocal, get this, for percussion, get this, for drums, get this, but just like if you could expand on some of the mics, some companies they could kind of blindly go to, that might be helpful.
Okay. Let's see. Well, Neumann makes like the TLM 103, even like the KM, I think it's the KM 84 series. Those are pretty, like, actually excellent mics for your budget. You know, if you can save, let's say, I know it's a lot of money to most people starting out, but if you can save your $800 to $1,000 for a really good mic, you're not going to be sorry. You know, you're not going to be like, oh man, I spent all my money. You're going to be like, wow, I got this really great mic. And then just kind of like, you know, just kind of go from there. But a good budget mics would be like Audio Technica, makes some really, really good quality mics for the money. Some of the entry level Neumann mics are really, really good for the money. And there's this one company. Oh shoot, I can't remember the name, but let's see. I would stay away from like even like a Shure mic or a 421. I still use those regularly on drums and stuff. Like I never. I'll normally go to a 421 on the toms and on the snare. I'll always use a SM57, which is like, how much is that? It's like less than $100 or something.
Like $60.
So little things like that, you know. I mean, I would definitely cruise the forums and stuff, check out Gear Sluts and research for that stuff. Don't go blindly into Guitar Center or what have you, Sam Ash, and just buy the latest greatest thing. I would definitely just do the research before you do it, because you can find good deals on eBay and stuff. I'm trying to look for the person. Oh, yeah. I was like, who asked me this question? I'm trying to look for him, and you're over there. But yeah, definitely do the research, because you can definitely get good deals on eBay and stuff. You know, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, man.
No problem.
This is great. This is really a great day for me, because I wouldn't use any of the. I'm not gonna tell my story. Basically, thank you very much, man. Some amazing stuff. I do have a question though, just my own interest, particularly on a gospel track. The density, the amount of different voices that were there in the mix at that point. Do you have any tips on density management?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's definitely something I've learned as just from mixing, you know, all these years and stuff. But a lot of it has to do with just blends. You know, I spend a lot of time on just blending a particular section or whatever. So I start off with most of the time I start off with instruments, and then I get to, like, say with that track, I know I'm going to be faced with like tons of vocals. So I'll get the track kind of happening, not all the way there, and then I put the vocals in right away. Instead of waiting and, you know, doing like a step-by-step process, I start putting in the frequencies that I know I'm going to have a lot of work on right away with the track, you know, because it's never good to just stay in solo mode and hear the instrument by itself, because it's gonna sound completely different once.
The relationship.
Yeah, once the track, it's in the track, it's gonna sound completely different. So, you know, I only solo if I'm hearing a problem or if I'm just kind of searching for a different frequency. But most of the time, I'm EQing everything in the track, you know, as it's playing all together, you know. But as far as vocals, I'll spend time, even just minute little rides for the you know, for the levels. Instead of just you know, just having one level set, I kind of take every note in each harmony and just kind of move things around until they're just kind of sitting perfect. Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with placement too. I spend a lot of time just kind of putting it in the sound field instead of just here or just there or just there, just kind of spreading it out. So for the choir in particular, I had the bass in the middle, and then the middle choir, and then the highs on the right side. Yeah, so kind of spread it out. Yeah.
Man, thanks a lot, man. All right.
Hello.
Hi.
Have you done any recordings outside the studio? Do you have any
live recording, or
yeah, live or different environment rather than the studio? Field recordings, or even if it's musical or for cinema or whatever. I don't know if you have any knowledge about this, because there's a wide difference between proper instrument microphone rather than the shotgun microphone.
Yeah.
Do you know about this?
I've had limited experience on that. Just pretty much once before I got started, actually, just, you know, with friends and stuff, we'd experiment with stuff. But like professionally, I haven't really done it. No, but I've done a lot of live recordings though.
Right. And do you have any reference about this to look on? People that do this, like
that do it. I mean, you should research some of the film guys, actually. The guys that go out and they get the what do they call those guys? The guys that do the Foley, exactly. Yeah. Read up on those guys, because I've actually gotten some good information just looking at those things from film guys. Yeah, because it's actually one of the things I would love to do too. Mix the sound for film.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Any more questions?
How many people want to study engineering? Raise your hands. All right. Okay. And how many people are musicians? All right. Cool. And last thing, how many people want to go into production, just as a producer, produce artists? Okay.
Absolutely fascinating lecture. Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing,
you.
man.
Thank you very much. Thank you.